A very good morning to you. This is the South African Morning right here on eNCA. The Transport Minister, Sindisiwe Chikunga, was left shaken after being robbed at gunpoint. She and her VIP protection team had stopped on the side of the road to change a tire. Now, the team is receiving counseling since the incident. Now, being a bodyguard means that you've got to be skilled in assessing threats and also be able to provide protection for the client. And I'm sure you would agree with me that that is not an easy job. Chatting to us this morning is one of the late President Nelson Mandela's protection team, Rory Steyn. Rory, great to have you on the SA Morning today. I guess one of the questions that so many South Africans are asking themselves right now is how does a government minister get robbed while she actually has bodyguards and has protection with her? And if that can happen to her, what more to us?
Good morning, Tommy, and everybody listening. Nice to be back on your show this morning. Yeah, it's not... Sadly, Tommy, I think the obvious answer to that question of yours is that this is what happens to hundreds of South Africans on a weekly basis. Whether or not you're a minister, the minister is a mother. She's a wife. She's somebody's daughter, and this doesn't, this shouldn't happen to anybody. Being protected is neither here nor there in this instance. The minister became yet another statistic and a victor of the scourge of crime that we are all faced with. And I just wanted to make that point. So a lot has been said in the media, and you've got all the armchair critics, what-ifing this thing and saying that they could have, should have, would have done that. If I had to put the blame anywhere, honestly, I think this is a lack of training. But I've been saying this for so many years now on interviews such as this, that one of the biggest failings of our police, and there are many, despite the fact that so many of them do great work, and it's a ever thin blue line that stands in the gap for all of us, Tommy, they are being failed by the senior management of the police that are not paying attention. They're cutting budgets here and there. They're stealing money. Or maybe that's the wrong word. They're taking money from one part of the police expenditure or the budget and putting it elsewhere. And very often, what suffers the most is training. And, an incident like that where you get a puncture is not something that you plan for. However, in the professional world of personal protection, proper personal protection, any unforeseen incident like that should be planned for. So what you do when you're in that position, if you put yourself in the shoes of those two young men, you should be playing what-if scenarios in your mind all of the time, because that's how you prepare for an incident. So as soon as the blowout happened, and I don't know, I wasn't there, whether it was a slow puncture that slowly went down over time, making the vehicle unstable, or whether it was a sudden blowout that caused them to stop suddenly. Whatever the circumstances were, as soon as that happens, in your mind, you should be what-ifing. What if somebody comes up on us now? So absolutely, yes, they should have been more vigilant, and they should have taken care. The one should be covering the other all of the time, and somebody should have eyes up and looking and not eyes down and focusing on the wheel of the car. So yes, that should have happened. But I point the finger at a lack of proper training of those guys. I mean, we should, if we had to ask any question, we should ask that of the police. Those two people, those two men, or maybe there was a lady there, since the minister is a lady. What is their training, and what does their retraining look like? When last were they sent on refresher training?
So, Rory, in a situation like that, yes, the bodyguards went out and they're the ones that tried to change the tire of the car. What actually should have happened? And do we know how many, vehicles were actually traveling with the minister? Was she just on her own with the bodyguards in the same vehicle? Was there another, bodyguard vehicle that was trailing or following them? What was the scenario, and how should that situation actually have been dealt with, considering the very important point that you made, that you really do need to plan for the unexpected?
Unexpected, yeah. So, we often say that if we don't know that we're going to stop on the side of a highway, well, then neither do the bad guys. So it's not always a bad thing when these things, are unplanned. But part of your training teaches that you look out for what you can do to control the situation when an unplanned incident happens. And that's actually my point, Tommy. So to your question, I don't know whether the minister had a security follow vehicle, that's what we call it, or whether it was just her official vehicle with one of the protection officers driving and the other one sitting in the left front seat. As to whether the action is correct to ask the protectors to get out to change the tire, absolutely, that is correct. But you would do that, as I said, in such a way that not both of them, if there were just two, or if there was a follow vehicle with another two, that makes a team of four. If there were four of them, even more so, that at least one of them is kind of separated from the vehicle that is stricken, and his or her head is up, and they're keeping a lookout. So the way it should work, Tommy, is that the number of protectors assigned to any VIP is determined by a threat assessment or a risk assessment. In this case, it's a threat. What threats are those protectors mitigating? And that would determine the size of the protection detail. My sense is, as I said, I don't know. My sense is that it was just the two protectors in the minister's vehicle. And there's a way of doing it. I mean, I was not there at the time, but my colleague Jason Chabalala told me that back in the 90s, Madiba told his motorcade to stop because there was a lady on the side of the road trying to change her tire, and it was raining. And he said to him, "But Tata, why must we stop and do this? We're here to protect you." And he said, "Well, you're men, aren't you? Get out there and help the lady." So these things do happen. And all I'm saying is that there is a way to do that, Tommy. There's a way to do it where the big pitfall, the pothole, if you'll excuse the expression, the pothole that you don't want to fall into when something like that happens is that you are so fixated and focused and head down on changing a tire that you're not doing what you should be doing, which is protecting and surveilling. And as I say, I think the weakness there is a lack of proper training.
And I guess a lack of vigilance, as you are saying. So if you are in a car and a situation like that happens and you are traveling on your own, then there's obviously no one there who can surveil, who can keep watch, and who can make sure that you're not going to become a victim, to crime or a robbery. What then do you suggest that one actually does if it does happen to somebody else? What does one actually do? Do you sit there and call for, somebody to come in and change your tire, call for backup help instead of doing it yourself because there's no one to back you up?
Yes. So, you would get out of the car and you would assess where you are, your circumstances, and as a dad and as a husband, Tommy, it's probably my biggest nightmare. I do not want a member of my family breaking down, especially at night on the side of a road anywhere. Fortunately, in South Africa, we have such good people in our country that invariably a good Samaritan, in inverted commas, will probably stop and ask if they can help. But you could also have somebody stopping there not to help, but seeing that as an opportune target, maybe to relieve you of a cell phone and your valuables. So if you're alone and that happens to you, the first thing you need to do is assess where you are. Definitely call for help. You either call the AA if you're an AA member. Many vehicle manufacturers have a number. It's normally on the little license disc on the windscreen, or somewhere prominent right in front of you, where you can call for roadside assistance. Many of the insurance companies provide roadside assistance, and there should be a number. So my point is, Tommy, the time to be thinking of who to call is not when it happens. The time to be thinking of who to call, and anybody listening to this should immediately go and find out from their insurance, from their whatever affiliation they have, their AA or whatever, what is the number that I would call to get somebody out there? And then you need to make a call. You need to decide whether it's safer for you to sit in the car with the doors locked and wait for that backup or roadside assistance of whatever nature it is to get there, or whether you get out of the car and kind of distance yourself a little bit from the vehicle where you can still watch the car, but you're in a safer position than sitting in the car. So that's all going to depend on, a set of circumstances which you need to assess to the best of your ability. Not all of us are trained in surveillance and anti-surveillance or counter-surveillance and in security techniques, but we've all got common sense. So you need to make a call, whether you're safer in the vehicle or somewhere out of it where you can keep an eye on it. You can watch for the cavalry to arrive, as it were, with your phone in your hand, and get yourself to somewhere where you're going to be the most safe from an opportunistic criminal act because of the breakdown of whatever nature it is. If you've got somebody with you, much easier, because then one of you can work on changing the tire or fixing the problem, and the other one can keep a lookout. Sadly, that's where we are in South Africa today. But as I say, I have a lot of faith in our people that somebody will stop, to help. If they don't, just have a backup plan, and that you've got to decide now. You've got to know what your backup plan is going to be before it happens to you.
I'm going to have to ask you this, Rory. Given the intensity of the crime that we're experiencing now in our country, do you suggest that people actually do go out and get the requisite training that they needed? You made a choice there between training and common sense. And if I've got to choose one, I'd actually want to have both of them. So, and also as far as protection is concerned, I mean, would you advocate that people actually have, whether pepper sprays or guns or whatever, to be able to protect yourself should an incident of that nature befall you?
Yeah, I do. And at the expense of appearing mercenary, it's something that we are required to do for our clients. Normally corporate clients will ask us to come in and do a couple of hours of personal safety awareness training. That's what we call it. Just being aware of your circumstances, what's going on around you, Tommy. The classic example is of a lady walking out of a shopping mall to the car, but she's on the phone and she's digging in the handbag for her keys, while she's pushing the grocery trolley. The criminals have spotted you long before you think that they've spotted you. So, we train people to walk out in a confident manner, head up, eyes alert, looking at who doesn't belong. Your handbag with your valuables is closed and it's under your arm if you're a lady, and you've got the remote for the car in your hand, and you walk you walk with a purpose to your vehicle, pack the groceries, don't be distracted. It's that kind of stuff that we talk about. So yes, I would absolutely advocate that everybody inform themselves, whether it's through a formal briefing or training session like what I've described, or whether it's just reading up on what's available out there on the web and just taking advice from experts or even from victims. Let people that people tell you what not to do and what to look out for, Tommy. I absolutely advocate that.
And I guess
yes.
That's the greatest experience after having been through something of this nature, how to deal with it. It allows you to go through the paces in your head and to paint the different scenarios. But thank you so much for some valuable insight.
You're very welcome.
Rory. That's one of the late President Nelson Mandela's protection team, Rory Steyn, ultimately saying, look, be prepared for the worst, be alert, and don't take things for granted. Always have a backup.